Yayoi Kusama. You guys know a lot about her. This is the artist we've been studying at school this year. Yayoi Kusama was born in the country of Japan on the island of Honshu in a town called Matsumoto City. An old palace made of wood and stone overlooked a moat where swans swam. The streets were lined with little shops, and snow-capped mountains rose in the distance, swallowing up the sun as it went down in the evening. Yayoi's family owned nurseries where all kinds of flowers and vegetables grew, and workers tended the plants as they matured from seeds to sprouts to stalks. But Yayoi yearned for a different life, far from the countryside. She dreamed about what lay beyond the mountains, in places far from Matsumoto City. She longed to leave home and to see the world. Yayoi's mother wanted her to stay home and learn old-fashioned manners, how to dress elegantly, walk demurely, eat politely, and find a proper husband. But Yayoi wanted to be an artist. Every day she went outside with ink and brushes and paper. She drew things she saw and things she imagined. She looked closely at the pebbles that lined the riverbed and the leaves and stalks of plants, and she drew them as chains of tiny cells that looked like dots. When she was older and studying art in school, her teachers disapproved of her work, and they demanded that Yayoi paint in the traditional, precise Japanese style. She wanted to go where she could live without rules. When she was 28 years old, she packed up her silk kimonos and thousands of drawings and stuffed dollar bills into the toes of her shoes. It was her first airplane trip. There were only 4 other passengers, and the weather was stormy with rain and lightning. The airplane wobbled and dipped as it flew to America. In New York, Yayoi went to the top of the Empire State Building, the tallest building in a city full of tall buildings. When she looked down, she saw buses and cars and yellow taxis zooming up and down the avenues, and bankers and teachers and artists rushing to work. From up on the 86th floor, they looked like dots. She felt very far from quiet Matsumoto City and from her mother's rules. Here it seemed anything was possible. Well, it's New York. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Yayoi set about turning her drawings of dots into paintings. The dollar bills that she had brought to America quickly ran out. She spent what little money she had left on paints and canvases. She worked day and night. She painted when she was cold, she painted when she was hungry, and she painted when she was lonely. And she turned her dots into sculptures too, into soft, stuffed tubes that covered sofas and chairs and boats. She was devoted to her dots. For her, they were a way of thinking about the world among the stars, as one dot among millions of others. They were a way of thinking about infinity. Sometimes, when she grew frustrated, she visited the Museum of Modern Art. She gazed at paintings by other artists, and she thought about why and how they were made. She looked at pictures of dancing girls, and swirling night skies, trying to solve them as if they were puzzles. That's actually my favorite museum in New York City too, and a few of my favorite paintings. That painting, that artist has the same first name as I do. Her paintings seemed so different from those she had seen at MoMA. When at last she was ready to show her work in public, she invited all the friends she had made in New York. When she arrived at the gallery, a crowd was spilling out onto the sidewalk. Her friends lifted her into the air, shouting, "Yayoi, you've finally done it!" Word about her artwork spread quickly. Her friends told their friends. Newspapers wrote about their work, and reporters clamored to interview her about her dots. She began to show them in other cities all over the United States and Europe. Her dots were covering the world. They appeared in Venice, in thousands of dot-shaped mirrors scattered over a big green lawn, and on a pumpkin on a pier. On dresses and t-shirts, on people walking down the street, and in a mirrored room where glowing dots were reflected and reflected again, an infinity of dots. Wow, there it is. Look at that. Having visited many countries all over the world, Yayoi returned to Japan. The country had changed since she left, with many different artists challenging the old traditional style, as Yayoi had been doing all along. She still lives in Japan and continues to paint her dots every day. Here's some of her work. And here's a photograph of her mirrored room. Thanks for listening.